Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Kelly's Creative Dream Studios. It's really early. So early, in fact, that this is the second time I'm recording this video. But that's okay, since I have to make everything in pairs. This will work. The first video was almost 40 minutes long, but it was as I masterminded these together. Well, now you can see how they came out, and putting them together in a video for you to show you how they came about will be much faster. But let me get back to the beginning first. Number one, this is Julie's mini challenge in the challenge number one for the One More Time October Stash Busting Junk Journal Challenge. And what we had to do was take an 8.5 by 11 sheet, and she had grafted this out for us. We have a 4 inch by 4 inch corner tuck. We have two of those. We have two 5 1/4 by 2 inch booklets, four 3 1/4 by 1 inch tabs, and two 4 1/4 by 3 inch tags. Now, I have swapped these two around. This becomes my booklet. Here, this became my tag, and then I have the corner tuck. Okay, so what I did was I started with this sheet of paper. I don't have another whole one over here, but I have this in a 12 by 12, but I happen to have one that was a little larger than 8.5 by 11 that was left over from another project, so that worked because I'm busting my stash and using my scraps. And then I cut them down to, here is my 4 inch by 4 inch corner tuck. Have my other pieces laying here. Here is my 4 1/4 by 3 inch tag, which will become my booklet, and then here's my 4 1/4 by 2 inch tag. Now, I also used a piece of notebook paper, and I'm going to show you how we're going to shade this on the inside before we put this in. And I'm probably going to go ahead, this one I glued first. I think I'm going to try this one not gluing it in first before I do my crease. This one I lined with a piece of graph paper, grid paper from a pad from Die Cuts with a View called Everyday Essentials. And I had gotten this on clearance at Hobby Lobby a couple of years ago, and I'm using it out piece by piece. And then the booklet I just left plain on the inside. So let's start with our corner tuck. And then we'll come back to that. We need to score this, but before I score it, if you'll notice on this one, there's a pink shading around the outside, and I'm using Pretty in Pink. It's a retired color from Stampin' Up! And one of my go-to color pinks. And I'm going to go from the outside in a swirling motion, and my sponge is starting to tear up on this one. I notice we'll just get some of that roughness. And when you come in from your outside, you put your darker color against your edge, and then it lightens up as you come to the inside, which is what gives you your shadow behind your paper. And if you go in a swirling motion, instead of just swiping in, if you go in a swirling motion, you get a nice smooth degradation of color all the way around. And I use the finger daubers. I also have the brushes over here that Julie uses, and I've used those on occasion. But when I've got my Stampin' Up! Colors out, I initially started out when I got all my colors, I had a finger dauber for every single one of them. They left set out on my work table before I got too many. A couple of cork dots, and then my dauber was right there with my color all the time. Okay, so now we're going to score this. Now I'm going to show you. I could get the cutting board over here, the paper trimmer over here, and do this, but if you don't have a paper trimmer to use your scoring tool on, you can also just use a couple of pieces of foam glued together, or a mouse pad and a straight edge, and just line your straight edge up corner to corner, and use your bone folder, and that will let you crease that away. So you don't have to have fancy tools to do this with. And then I'm going to take and use my bone folder and get a really good crease on that so it will lay. Okay, now we have that. And now we're going to come back with our notebook paper. And I'm just going to go around the edge so I get a good coverage here. I've started standing up to do my videos. Now, because I did this crease down here, I want to go on either side of that, just a skosh. And then I'm going to come back in and I'm going to squiggle, 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 so that I get good contact, okay? And then we're going to take and lay this in to where it's about a 1/4 inch all the way around in that pink, okay? Push it down good on that center. Now I am not going to refold this up right away. I want that glue to dry first, because if I don't, this is going to pucker. So I'm going to leave that dry for a minute. Okay, then let's come back and do our tag. And this is the one that we cut 5 1/4 by 2 inches. So we enable to give us that same edging here. I need to cut this 5 inches by 1 3/4, because we're trimming it in a 1/2 inch narrower all the way around, a 1/4 inch narrower all the way around. So we need to do 1 3/4, just like that, and 5 inches. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing with this, adding color to the outside of this tag, just like we did on the corner tuck. Come in like this. See, when you pre-plan these out, your videos actually go a little faster. I actually, in my infinite wisdom, thought I could do this morning one pass, you know, without coffee, without being completely awake, all that fun stuff. So this is going to work out much nicer. And you won't have to sit here for 40 minutes and watch me, oh, I forgot something, and run over to my other table. You won't have to do that this morning. And now we're going to come back and add the glue to this one. I'm getting glue on my fingers already this morning. Most people say, you know, glitter. No, mine's glue. I wear my glue proudly. And while this gives Cassie a writing spot on the back of this tag, it's just a little less pronounced. I mean, it's not the stark white. And if you'll notice, in these flowers, there is a slate gray color there. So this grid paper from Die Cuts with a View is a perfect workout for this. Now I'm going to come back, and you know me, I round my corners if I'm putting a tag in. I want it to slide into its pocket easily, so I round my corners. And then I have this punch from Stampin' Up, which is perfect for this 1 3/4 tag. It fits it, or this 2 inch tag fits it perfectly. And there's that. And then we can get those out of the way. Okay, before I put the yarn on, I'm going to do the trim on this one. And I've chosen to use this lace that I have in abundance. And I also have these from my stash where I punched out tags. So much real estate here that I didn't want to lose. So they came out of my scrap bin. And I'm going to take, and yes, I got precise with this. And I measured up about 1 inch from the bottom of the tag. And that's where I ran my glue for my pink strip of paper. And then I'll come back, flip this over. I'm not happy, it looks a little crooked. There we go. And snip that off. Should have used my glue scissors for that one. And then I'm going to come back with my craft awl. I love the craft awl for doing fabric because it lets my fabric stick almost instantaneously, which is great for doing videos. And I'm just going to run a bead of that glue on there and use a couple lengths of that lace, press it down into place. See, I'm not letting it dry here before I try moving it around and manipulating it, so we're going to fix that here. And stuff should dry pretty quick over here because I've got my fan going. Let's do that again. I have my fan going over here. It's pretty windy outside, but it's very tropical. Thank you to the hurricane weather. Even here in the Ozarks, we get to taste of the hurricane weather. I will go back and touch that up. Make sure it's in place where I need it to. Partly as the problem is I have glue tips on my fingers. And it's following me everywhere I go. Okay, now I'm going to come back while that's drying a little bit. I'm going to come back with these are from Crafter Square from Dollar Tree. And what they've done is they've just run a bead of glue this way. So all of my embellishments are glued together. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this whole strip out because we're going to use the embellishments on the other items. For this one we're going to use one of the round ones. And I had round ones down here. And I'm cutting up really close to that bead there. And I've got one here that's got 3 on it. But let's go ahead and use these. So I need one of these. And I'm going to need these 2 right here. The clear ones on the end of this, but I'm going to go back and cut that glue strip away first so that when I pull the sparklies up I don't have things in my way. Now I don't always trust the glue on the back of those stickers, so I'm going to come back and I'm going to add a dot of my glue where I'm going to place my beads. And again, the Tombow multi-purpose dries pretty quick. So it will let me come back. It will dry these in place. If I try not to get the glue all over my fingers so that the beads come back up with me, I'm okay. Which is usually my issue. And then we got one of the round ones here in the center. So we're to do at least 3 of the embellishments from this 9 embellishment cut apart. So technically I have 3 on there. I'm going to come back and trim that now. I feel comfortable in doing that. And I'm using pink yarn. And I just kind of cut me a length here. Because what I'm going to do is I wanted it to be, I lost my other one laying here somewhere underneath this disaster. I want it to be fluffy. So I've got about 12 inches here and I'm folding it in half, but then I'm folding it again so that I'm going to wind up with a 4-strand tassel. Run it through the top. Make my loop to slide those through. And yes, I've got more on here than I need, and that's fine. My whole point was to make sure I had enough to work with. The shorter you make this to start with, the harder it is to manipulate through that loop. So yarn is cheap. Give yourself plenty to play with. And there we go. So there is our tag. So there's those 2 done. And we had our corner tuck. This one here, we can go ahead and fold this one now. Back on our crease. Get to our bone folder here. Give this a good crease down this way. Now for this one, we laid the lace because we wanted to define that tucked edge. Whoa. I lost my beads there. So we're going to go down here. And we're going to cut a length of this off. Come back with our craft awl. And I'm going to lay this open so we can get to it. And I'm going to run my bead across there. Just like that. I need to get a little bit more on this corner here. Okay, and then lay our strip of glue or strip of lace across that corner or across that edge. And that's going to define the edge of our pocket. Okay. And then I have 5 of these round embellishments on there. Before I put those on, because it's going to take those a little bit more to set, you'll notice we have a rocking horse here. Now this rocking horse is a brad, but I don't want the brad coming through on my paper. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our brad, and we're going to open him up, and come back with our jewelry wire cutters. You can use any wire cutters. Good kitchen shears would work too, but I always keep a pair of wire cutters, my jewelry wire cutters, handy. And we've just clipped those little bits off. I'm going to put those prongs in the trash can right away so that they don't wind up in the bottom of a kitty paw. And then I'm coming back with a dimensional to put on the back. If I can get him to quit rocking on me. And position this dimensional to where it's not showing through the hole on that rocking horse. And we're going to position him right down here in the corner. Just like that. Okay, now so that I can set this aside, I'm going to go ahead and come back with my Tombow, and I put one of those beads, or one of those bling, right in the center of each one of those scallops. Just like that. Sometimes getting these off and picking them up isn't as easy as you would think. The trick is when you lay that down, try not to let the glue squish out from underneath, because it's going to stick to your finger. And then you're going to pull the bling and the lace back up with you when you let go. So just like that. So after I've done the design process on this on the first round, you're seeing this go together in real time. Okay. And there is our corner tuck for number 2. Now you see I trimmed the lace on this one. I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. I like it better. So we flip it over to where we can see where our lace protrudes. Snip it off. And there we go. And then this will glue right down in the corner of a page on the book. Okay, one more, and that is our notebook, and this is probably the simplest of all. What I've done is I've used a piece of this scrap, just like this, and let's score this. And I am going to use the score pad for this one, because this one is 3 inches. Why is it 3 1/4? Oh, that's my scrap. That's why. This is 4 1/4, so I need to score this at 2 1/8. Okay. And then I'm going to fold that over, run this with my scoring tool, and give me a good crease with my bone folder. And then I'm using this pink scrap as if it were to make it look like it was the spine. And I've got this kind of crock-eyed here. So we're going to run our glue along this edge, and I'm going to open this up so I can see that edge, so I can lay this up there really close to that edge, just like that. Just like that. Okay, and then I can come back and trim that excess off, and we're good to go. Now the other thing we've got to do is run a piece of lace, just as if it were our spine of our book. And I ran this to where I was, to where I had one center. So I took 3 of these, and I left them to where I could center them on here. And again, we're using the craft awl to give us a good adhesion. And I'm taking and running it off the edge of that pink. See how I'm brushing it down this way? That gives me a little bit off that edge for this lace to stick to. And I'm positioning that to where I've got one full one in the center, right along the edge of that. And I won't need the glue all anymore, so I'll move it out of the way. And then come back with, whoops, that one's going to be a little full. And then 3 more of the round ones. Right there. Now that one's going to squish, so I'm going to try not to squish him too hard with my finger. Because when I pull my finger back up, he'll come up with me. I'm using the pick tool from Dollar Tree. They come 2 to a package. The needle point is not very strong. It will bend. But I do like it for getting underneath the edge of things. I wouldn't use it for a piercing tool, but it's great for getting up underneath the edges. Just like that. Then we're going to come back and trim our lace off. And in 21 minutes as opposed to 40, we are done. We have 2 booklets, 2 corner tucks, and 2 tags. So there's my first 3 embellishments for each of the 2 girls' books. You probably won't get to see any more of what I do until you see the final flip through next Monday. So if you like watching how things come together and much prefer a shorter version as opposed to how my brain works in putting it together, please let me know in the comment section below. Also, by clicking the like button lets me know that you want to see more of these type of videos. And I apologize for no videos this weekend as far as Shout Out Saturday and Stampin' Up Sunday yesterday. As I said, this is Bob's in fact, this is today's last full day home. He will leave in the morning bright and early. So I didn't do any work after our little trip last week. Whatever I got done ahead of our trip last week was all I did last week, and the rest of the time was spent with Bob and working on Halloween decorations and just doing some fun stuff. So, because times with Bob are going to be the times I want to remember should something ever happen. Thanks for joining me in the studio today. Remember to like, subscribe, and go to all notifications, and I will see you back here tomorrow with a... No, take that back. I am not going to do a card video tomorrow since this is Bob's last day today. I'm not going to video it anymore today. So I will be back here on Thursday. Maybe? No. I'll be back here on Friday with a Friday freebie. That's it. I've got to get these albums put together, so this is my priority for the next 3 days. So I will see you back here Friday for Friday freebie. Have a great week. Creative blessings.